This is Cam Weiland, and you're listening to the 106th episode of the Wordplay Podcast. So far, the trickiest part of fleshing out my original first draft of The Deepest Breath, with the goal of adding at least 40,000 words, has been making certain that each new scene matters. Since the story arc was complete unto itself at 60,000 words, I'm having to be careful that my additions of new characters and subplots flesh out the story instead of just creating noisy filler. It's easier said than done. A scene can look important and integral in the outline, and then turn out to be lacking character motivations when I actually start writing it. My mental muscles have been doing a lot of flexing, and so far the results have been a lot of fun. Keep slow scenes moving with tension and foreboding. The latest post in the video series on my blog shows how Patrick Rothfuss cleverly made even his slowest scenes, In the Name of the Wind, interesting by prompting reader anticipation with foreboding and foreshadowing. You can watch the video on my blog at wordplay-kmweiland, that's weiland.blogspot.com. New videos are posted every Wednesday. Meanwhile, enjoy this week's podcast, Deus Ex Machina, Latin for Don't Do This in Your Story. By the time you reach the end of your story, you're sometimes out of steam, sometimes out of ideas, sometimes sick of your story, and sometimes just plain wrong about how to end it. As a result, you might find yourself walking through the yellow caution tape and stepping into the pothole of Deus Ex Machina before you even realize there's a danger. What is this deuced Deus Ex Machina, you ask? It's all Greek to me, you say. Well, actually it's Latin. If I wanted to get technical, I could explain that the phrase literally translates God from a machine, and was originally a reference to the god, played by an actor lowered onto the stage on a machine, who descended at the end of the Greek and Roman plays to solve all the mortal characters' problems, and put everything in order for a happy ending. However, for our 21st century English purposes, we could just say it translates, "Don't do this in your story," and be just as accurate. At first glance, Deus Ex Machina, the idea of all the plot problems being fixed in one fell swoop, might seem like a pretty good idea. But the only thing Deus Ex Machina is guaranteed to fix is your reader's low opinion of your book. This plot device might have worked for the ancient Greeks and Romans, although Aristotle might and did argue that point, but for modern authors it presents a number of difficulties. It robs cohesiveness by introducing a new element at the 11th hour. To reach full potential, every piece of your story must be part of a consistent whole. If the cavalry has no place in your Western, the climax in which it charges in to save the pioneers won't seem logical or resonant. It frustrates readers by taking the power out of the characters' hands. Readers want to see the characters put under excruciating pressure, so they can then observe their reactions, and usually their tenacity, skill, and courage in escaping and triumphing. When the damsel tied to the railway tracks is saved at the last minute by a handsome stranger, the heroine herself becomes a non-factor. It endangers suspension of disbelief through unlikely coincidences. Miracles may occasionally happen in real life, but in fiction they tend to make readers scoff. When your characters escape their mafia debts by winning the lottery, or being adopted by a little old lady millionaire, the result is both unsatisfying and difficult to believe. It cheats readers by eliminating proper foreshadowing. In order to achieve resonance, stories need to provide all the puzzle pieces to the reader by the time he reaches the climax. The foreshadowing found in the character's previous struggles will lead us up to the moment when he uses the lessons learned in those struggles to overcome this ultimate challenge. When he suddenly develops magical powers at the last moment, his escape from danger won't be satisfying because it's too different from the one readers expected. It disappoints readers by removing characters from danger too soon. After waiting for 300 pages to reach the climax, readers want to see the characters sweat. They want to see them pushed to the very brink of their physical, mental, and moral endurance, and then rise up from their own ashes to conquer both inner and outer demons. When the avenging angel swoops in to save the characters, the result is anticlimactic. Instead of thrilling readers, your ending is more likely to have them heaving your book across the room. Deus Ex Machina comes in many different shapes, but once you learn how to look for it, you can squish it on sight and save your readers from wanting to think up uncomplimentary Latin translations. Thank you for listening to the Wordplay Podcast. To read a transcript of this episode, visit me on the web at wordplay-kmwyland, that's weiland.blogspot.com, and be sure to listen again next week.